to Georgia to play hockey for the hockey season. I ended up getting plugged into a college ministry called Wave, it's a church down there. And they announced they were going to do a missions trip to Miami. And I was like, really? Why Miami? Miami's a place that like college students go to party and vacation and stuff. So I never really thought of it as like a so yeah, I never really thought of it as like a mission field. But the more I heard about it, the more people started talking about it. The ministry had gone 2 years prior, and the people that had gone before, the way they spoke about it, and the way the people that they met and interacted with, how passionately they spoke about it, really drove me to go. And thanks to you guys, I was able to go. So I just want to thank you all for allowing me to go and providing the means for me to go. So thank you. It's much appreciated. So we went with our ministry Wave. About 25 of us went down to Miami. Specifically, where we went was a place called Hialeah. Hialeah is not the greatest of places to go. You wouldn't really ever go there on vacation or anything like that. So it was a really, really interesting place. Nothing like I've ever experienced. But as soon as we got there, it was kind of like a culture shock. As soon as we got out of the vans and stuff, there was this like loud Hispanic music playing. And, it was just like so like real, and it was really cool to get there. And where we went specifically, Hialeah, there's 3 counties around Miami that make up about 1/3 of Florida's population. So there's 24 million people in Florida and 8 million people in these 3 counties. And they took a survey, and about 3 million of those people identified as not believing in anything, and that's pretty scary. So those are just the people that don't believe in anything, just not even God. So there's a great calling and a great need for people to go. And it was so evident as soon as we got down there, because just the environment, the people, it's so evident how lost they are. And I never really experienced anything like it. Like you're driving down the road, the advertising, the billboards, everything was just like so secular and so worldly, and it's really sad. It was a very lost place, and I'm glad I got to go. So why we went down to serve a few churches, some newly started churches and newly restarted churches in the area, or surrounding the area. There was spread out, not only in Hialeah, but it was spread out a lot of different places. And kind of what we went to do was just help them out, support them, and do whatever we needed to do. So some of the things we did was we did canvassing. If you don't know what canvassing is, it's basically just going door to door and inviting people to church. This was a really cool experience for me because I've never really talked to random strangers about God, and this was just a great opportunity to do that. So the first place we went was to a place called Oakland Park. And Oakland Park is a really cool environment because the church is centered inside of the neighborhood. Usually it's on a rotary and something like that, but this church was inside of a suburb. And it was really cool to just go around the place and interact with the community. And what we were doing there is we were basically just inviting people to a community day. And the cool thing about this is Pastor Joey, I don't know why anyone would go by Joey after the age of 12. Pastor Joey, he wanted to just invite people to a community day around the church, and not just to get them to church, but to just interact with the community and get to know them. And he really told us that the one struggle that they were having with that church was they didn't have an identity. The people around them, they didn't know who that church was and what they stood for. So he was just trying to get people around to just interact with them, and they were really just there to serve. And that was a really cool thing to experience, and cool way to bring people into the church. So that really touched me. And then, so what we did is we split up into 3 different groups. Each group went to a different church each day. Well, 3 different churches each day. And the group that I went to was Pastor Joey's church. And then at the end, after we were done, we all convened back at the mission center, and we had like a service, basically, like a worship service. And then one of the pastors that we were serving would come back and speak to us and tell a little bit about their story and like give us a little bit about the word. So that was really cool. And Pastor Joey was the first one that came, and he was a really encouragement to me just because of his demeanor and the way he carried himself. I asked him a bunch of questions and he answered each one. He was very present in our conversation, even though it was late and he had to get back to his 7 children, which was crazy. But he was just very present, very with us, and that was really cool. So then some of the other things we did were we did a little bit of light construction, just like cleaning up the area and stuff for a church called Turning Point. Turning Point is actually building their first church. Right now they're having their worship services in a tent, which is kind of cool to see, just like the passion that they have to just convene in a tent, like in 80-degree weather. So we did some cleanup. We did move some rebar, did some different things with pallets and stuff. But one of the really cool things that we found at Turning Point was when we were cutting down brush. There was this like cement cylinder with like a big hole in it, a bunch of grass around it. When I was cutting the grass down, and I looked inside of the little the cement cylinder thing, and there was like this fur stuff. I was like, what is this? So I cut the stuff down. I was like, what is that? There was like these 4 kittens. You can see these 4 kittens. It was just like a really random, like fun thing to experience. But then what we did was another thing we did at some other churches was we took over their youth ministries or their different age ministries, and we just like led their services. One specifically was like we helped out with like an Awana with like little kids, and one crazy thing about that is like it was all in Spanish. So these kids are like just like only speaking Spanish pretty much. So the culture there is very like embedded in like it's very densely populated with Hispanic heritage and stuff like that. So then we also took over the Turning Point's high school and middle school ministry, and some of us got to speak and share our testimonies, and I was lucky enough to be one of those people. And that was a really cool experience too, because just looking back on my testimony and stuff, and like you guys are a great part of that, just being like a great church body. So I want to thank you again for that. And then one of my favorite parts of the trip, we went to the Miami Metro. What we were basically doing, we got on a stop, and we took 4 stops to downtown Miami. And the goal there was just to talk to some people about God. And this part of the trip was probably the most discouraged I've been on the trip. On the Metro, I didn't get to talk to anyone, which is fine, but it was just like a kind of discouraging. And then when we got to downtown Miami, I started talking to this one guy. He just like got up and left. I was like, okay. So that was discouraging too. And then so like at this point, I'm pretty discouraged. Like hearing everyone else having these great conversations, like you want to be happy for them, but you find yourself being a little bit jealous almost. But God just like blessed me so much in this time, because when there was about 5 minutes left before we were gonna head back, the leaders were like, just go out and find one more person, like pray with. Just pray with one more person. So me and a friend, Diego, he's a great guy. Diego and me, we went and prayed with this one guy. He only spoke Spanish. Luckily, Diego spoke Spanish. So we prayed with him in Spanish. So it was really cool. And Diego was like, okay, should we go back? I was like, well, let's just find one more person. So we went around, and he was like, Diego was like, let's pray with that guy. So we walked up to him, like asked if we could pray with him and stuff. And this experience was like one of my favorite of the trip, because at a point where I was really discouraged, God brought a brother in Christ to encourage us, and he was really encouraged by it, and he was just encouraging us the whole time. We prayed with him, shared his testimony with us and stuff. It took like 15 minutes. So everyone was like calling us and texting us, and we were just like trying to be present, you know. And he actually missed his bus to pray with us and stuff. So he was extremely present, and it was just a really cool moment. really encouraging and like brought me back up. But one of the main themes of the mission trip that I was really blessed by was just like how encouraging everyone was just in the group. We did this one thing at the end of the trip where we all circled up and just the leaders were like, you can either share a story that you had or you can share something that encouraged you. Not one person like talked about themselves and their own story. They were always like, we always were talking about like what this person did or what that person did that encouraged us. And that was really special because it showed that like everyone had the right heart. Like we wanted to be selfless and we were seeing other people just be witnesses, and it was super cool. One thing that like really encouraged me was Blake, one of my friends down in Georgia. He like expressed to me really a lot before we went on the metro and stuff like how nervous he was, because he's really kind of an awkward guy. He doesn't really fit in, I guess, and he was just expressing to me like how nervous he was to talk to people. Like he has a hard time talking to his friends, so like how is he gonna like talk to someone else about God? And so like I was trying to reassure him and stuff, and then I got to like walk around with him, and like I saw him like take initiative, and he like just overcame his fear, and like he wanted so badly to do it that he put his fear aside, and he prayed with like 3 people, and it was so cool to see because like just putting that fear aside for God is like just so cool, and it really encouraged me to like step up and do the same, because at that point I was pretty discouraged, so that encouraged me a lot. And then Bo, this is Bo. At the beginning of the trip, it was Sunday, and I got a really good blessing at the beginning of the trip. I got to speak with a guy named John Pierre, a homeless guy at the cafe that we went to. That was a really cool experience. I got to speak with him about the gospel and pray with him. And, I got to buy him coffee and stuff. But after that experience, I came back to the group and stuff, and Bo came up to me and said, "Man, like you really encouraged me. Like I want to just like be like you, I guess." And it was really a cool experience for me, because then throughout the trip, I got to see the fruits of that encouragement because he took the initiative and he stepped up and he took a step to share the gospel. Again, he's kind of a shy, awkward guy. Not shy, he's a great guy. But it was cool to see the fruits of that. And just some of the things that like really stuck out to me when I learned was like, if you want to, like, as soon as you put a yes on the table for God, like, he'll use it. Just like saying yes to the mission trip, like opened so many doors for me to share the gospel, and it opened so many doors for me to grow and for God to bless me. So, and another thing that really like was like pounded into my brain was just like slowing down. A lot of the times I live my life so fast, and I think a lot of us do, that we just miss opportunities to share the gospel, and we don't slow down enough to look for the opportunities. And like talking with Brandon, the guy that we prayed with, that missed his bus, him missing his bus and slowing down, taking time to just like be present was just a common theme that I saw. When we were actually traveling home, our van was very rushed, and like our driver really wanted to get home really bad. And to one point where she was going 97 on the highway, I was praying to God that my mom wouldn't look at the Life 360. So it was a very rushed trip home. And in contrast to that, another van had so many great stories of like talking to people at Chick-fil-A and different stuff like that. Just like a totally different experience to what we had on the trip home. And it just was a really good contrast to hammer home the fact that we just need to slow down and like look for the opportunities and stuff. So that's like kind of the trip encapsulated. There's a lot more. If you have any questions, let me know. But that's all from me. So just thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to go on the mission trip. So thank you so much.